All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We've got Super Bowl Sunday coming. I have 6 plays that I like. We're going to talk about the game, and then I'll give you my best bets. All I ask, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Helps with the algorithm, all that fun stuff. So let's talk a little bit about this game. We should have a pretty good defensive battle here. If we look at the defense for both teams, really good. Right, both teams are quite good at stopping the run. So Philly is 7th in terms of fewest rushing yards allowed. Kansas City number 1. Should be an interesting one. Kansas City 3rd in fewest rushing attempts allowed. Philadelphia 15th. Or I'm sorry, 6th. That was a mistake. But yeah, if we look at the weaknesses for Kansas City, it's tight end position. Dead last in receiving yards, dead last in receptions, dead last in yards after the catch, 18th in receiving touchdowns. KC does give up a decent amount of touchdowns to wide receivers. But what they don't do is give up a lot of rushing. So what's going to be the game plan for Kansas City? Pretty easy. Stop Saquon. So they're going to try to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands. He's either going to have to run it or he's going to have to throw for it. Passing yards are pretty low. I do have a lean for him to go over passing. Didn't make the card, but I could see this being a pretty low scoring game in the first half. So I do have a lean towards the first half under in this one. I could see the scoring picking up in the second half, but not something I want to bet. I'm not going to place a bet on the over under. In terms of which side am I leaning on? Eagles. To me, it's the Eagles. They're the better team in all facets if we combine them. So I know it's hard to fade Mr. Mahomes, but I think it's an Eagles game here. So that is where I kind of sit in this game. Like I said, I think we're going to see a decent amount of punts. I think we're going to see some long drives, some slow drives, methodical ones. A lot of 3rd down conversions, 4th down conversions. It should be an interesting game. I think both teams know they have to score, so they're going to be aggressive on those, 4th and 2, 4th and 3s. So it should make for an interesting game. It's probably going to come down to the turnover battle, right? Who's going to throw a pick? I think Jalen Hurts has been pretty safe with the ball. I think that'll continue. I don't think he's going to have any injury issues, right? He's had some time off here to rest and get right. Same with Patrick Mahomes. So what plays do I like in this game? Well, let's talk about it. Jalen Hurts over 8.5 rushing attempts. He's over this in 5 of his last 10 games. He's over this in 2 of 3 versus Kansas City. Mind they haven't played him in a little bit. But if we go back to last year when they did play him, Hurts had 15 and 12 rushing attempts in those 2 games. Kansas City 24th in rushing attempts allowed to the quarterback position. So I love this. Obviously, they have the brotherly shove, the tush push, whatever you want to call it. I think obviously they're going to use that on the goal line. They're going to use that on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, right? So we should easily go over this line. Next play I love is Samaje Perine. Been playing this all year. Over 7.5 receiving yards. He's over this in 9 of his last 10, 4 of his last 5. If we go back to the game versus Buffalo, he had 17 yards versus them. Now you could also look at his over 1.5 receptions. I don't hate that either, but I'm just going to stick with the receiving yards in this game. Next play I have is Dallas Goedert over 49.5 receiving yards. We just talked about it. Kansas City defense dead last to tight end. So this is a beautiful spot for Dallas to have a good day. He had 85 versus Washington, so he was pretty incremental there. And we go back a game before that, he had 56 versus the Rams. So he's over this in 3 of his last 5, and just a beautiful matchup here for him. Next play is going to be Jalen Hurts. Anytime touchdown, Saquon's going to be the popular one. It's juiced at -190. Where we can get Jalen at -115. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns last game versus Washington. If we go back to last year versus Kansas City, he had 5 touchdowns in 2 games against them. You can't stop the brotherly shove. So I think he's definitely going to be put in that position at least once during the game. Next play is going to be Patrick Mahomes over 5.5 rushing attempts. Last 2 games, he's had 7 and 11. So he is way over this line. The 2 games he played against Philly last year, he had 6 in both games. Right, this is a good spot, right? And beautiful thing about rushing attempts, if there's a kneel down at halftime or at the end of the game, those are rushing attempts. So I do love that. And then last play, we're going to stick with the rushing attempts. Not a probably not going to be a popular one. Isaiah Pacheco over 5.5 rushing attempts. He is over this in 8 of his last 10. That said, he's had 5 rushing attempts in his past 2 games. So he's had 2 weeks to get a little more healthier. If we look at the run styles, I mean, Pacheco is a hard-nosed, just straight north runner. Kareem Hunt, different kind of guy, right? Philly is very good at stopping the run. I think Pacheco is going to be called on to really get, some short yard situations, should get, I'd say 2 goal line carries. It's basically been Pacheco and Hunt kind of splitting goal line carries. If we look at the numbers, both averaging somewhere between 2 and 3 goal line carries per game. So I do like him to go over this line. I do think that Kansas City is going to have to try to establish some type of run here. The rush attempt line for Kareem Hunt is 11.5. That's just a little too rich in my opinion. I think we see a little bit more of a split workload now that Pacheco's had some time off. So that is where I am at on these plays. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you can, do me a favor. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. Join the Discord. Link is down below. Absolutely free. And I'll catch you in the next video.